We are going to learn a very important concept of core Java, that is object oriented programming, that is OOP. Object oriented programming, basically it is a programming style that breaks the program on the basis of the objects in it. It mainly works on class, object, polymorphism, abstraction, encapsulation and inheritance. Its aim is to bind, that is to encapsulate the data and the code together that operates on them. Now the core concepts of OOP are class, object, encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism and abstraction. Now let's look at the class. What is a class? Class is a user defined blueprint or a prototype or a logical template from which objects are created. It represents the set of properties, that is your states and data members, and methods, that is behavior action, that are common to all objects of one type. Java is a fully encapsulated language where the data members and the code are always binded together, and the class is the one which binds the data member and code together. Now let's see how we declare a class. Basically the access specifier, there are four types of access specifiers, that is your private, then your protected, default and public. But a class can has public or default access specifier. Now how the class name? The name should begin with a capital letter and then follow a camel case convention. So what is the camel case convention? Basically every word of first letter of the word should be in capital. Now the superclass, if a class is extending from any other class or if it has any parent class, then the name of the class must be preceded with the word extends. Implicit superclass of all Java classes is java.lang.object. Now interfaces. In Java there is a multiple inheritance is not possible. So if you want to inherit behaviors of different classes, then we have to go for the interfaces. So a comma separated list of interfaces implemented by the class, if any, preceded by the keyword implements. A class can implement more than one interface. Fields. Basically fields are the variables that provides the state of the class and its objects. So in Java there are static and non-static fields. Constructors. Constructors are used for initializing the state of the new objects, and the methods are used to implement the behavior of the class and its object. Now let's look at this example. Here you can see that the class name is the employee and the keyword is the class which is used to declare the class emp. Now we can see that the fields, that is private int id, private string name and private double sal. So these are the data members of this class, emp class. Now let's look at the parameterized constructor. So emp having three arguments, that is int id, string name and double salary. And this is how the parameterized constructor is written. Now these are the methods where we can set the salary and get the salary. Now what is object? It is a basic unit of object oriented programming and it represents the real life entities. The object is nothing but the instance of the class. A typical Java program creates many objects which interact by invoking the methods. Now what object consists of basically three things, that is the states, and states are nothing but our properties or attributes of an object or the instance variables. Behavior, it is represented by the method of an object, that is actions upon the data. And identity, it gives a unique identity to an object and enables one object to interact with other objects, and with the use of this identity we can differentiate between the objects. Now let's look at this example. Here we are having the class employee which have these three data members. We have the parameterized constructor and we have a method, that is get emp details. Now we are going to create the objects. The objects we create using the new keyword. Now object creation in Java, that is here you can see that we have created the object new emp and we have called this parameterized constructor. So the new operator instantiates the class by allocating memory for a new object, and at the same time it will return the address of or reference of that memory, and at the same time it will invoke the class constructor. So what is a constructor? Constructor is a special method having the same name as the class name. It does not have any explicit return type, but implicitly it returns the current object reference. It may be parameterized or parameterless. A parameterized constructor used to initialize the state of the object. If a class does not explicitly declare any constructor, the Java compiler automatically provides a no argument, that is a parameterless constructor called the default constructor. The default constructor initializes the state of the object to default values. And if you add a parameterized constructor, then the default constructor is no longer available. The default constructor implicitly calls the superclass no argument constructor. We can see all this through an example. Here look at the example, the calling of the constructor. Here with the new keyword, the constructor is called when we want to create the instance of the employee class. So now let's look at the example. Now this is here we have created the class employee. Now we have private int id, then private string name and private double salary. All these are tightly encapsulated, which means we cannot access anything outside the class. Now let's look at the parameterized constructor, that is EMP, having three arguments, that is int id, string name and double salary. And this is how we have initialized the parameterized. We have written the parameterized constructor, and this is our method that will get EMP details. Its return type is a string and it is returning us all the details of the EMP. Now let's test the class EMP. First we create the instance of the scanner class. Now let's enter the details of the employee. So let's tell the user to enter the details of the employee. ID, then salary. Okay, so here EMP, so E1. So here we have created the reference type of variable E1. We have just created the reference type variable, but the actual object is not created. So when we try to print this, we get a compiler error. So here why we are getting the compiler error? Because this reference type of variable is not initialized. So Java basically doesn't allow uninitialized variable. That's why it is giving us the compile time error. Now let's initialize the employee. So even what next? So with the new keyword, we are actually created the object. So instance of the class is created with the new keyword, and at the same time this new keyword will invoke this parameterized constructor. Now let's print the EMP details. So now let's test it whether it is. So here we are getting all the EMP details, but here though we have given the salary as a 20,000, we are getting the salary as 0.0. So why we are getting this salary as 0.0? This is because the constructor, though we have passed the salary as 20,000, salary, that is the way we have initialized it in the constructor, that our local variable is shadowing the instance variable. So how we will differentiate it with this keyword? What is this? This represents the current object reference, and it is used to unhide the instance variable from the local variable. So what is happening here? This is sal is our method local variable, and this sal is our instance variable. But because of this sal, because of the method local variable having the same name, the instance variable has been shadowed, and that's why it's giving us the value as 0.0. That is the default value. So to unhide this result, we have to use this keyword. So if we comment this and if we run it once again, so here we are now getting the salary as a 20,000. So this keyword is used to unhide the instance variables from the method local variable. Now let's create another instance of the class. Let's create the instance. Here sv.next and then sv.next. And then sv.global. Okay, now call the get emp details method on the employee2 variable. So let's run it once again. And let's say salary is having 30,000. So here we are getting the details of the employee. Now let's see how the memory is allocated or how the object is created on the heap. So this is the memory diagram. We have the three memory area, that is stack, heap and method area. So before, suppose like emp e1, so here we are just created the reference type employee, so it gets the memory on the stack. And now let's look at the e1 is equal to new employee, so we are creating the instance of the class. But before creating the instance of the class loading happens in the method area. So the emp class having the information of method and constructors get loaded in the method area. And now when we create the object using the new keyword, the object is created on the heap, but for every object the first slot is a class pointer and then the data members. Suppose this is here our class pointer and having the data members, like first one is Ramesh, the name of the employee is Ramesh and the salary is 20,000. So this class pointer is point to the employee class. And this new operator will return the memory address of the newly created object on the heap. So this address is stored in the e1 reference, which is a emp class type reference. And when we call the method, that is e1.getDetails, so how it will get called? So through e1 reference we will reach to the object created on the heap, and through this class pointer we will reach to this class pointer, will check whether we have that e1.getEmpDetails. So it don't have anything like that. So through this class pointer we will go to the method area, and the class pointer goes into the method area of the employee class, and it will invoke the method, that is emp.getDetails, which is here. So it will invoke this method, and after invoking the method, whatever the result is returned. For the second object, that is employee2 is equal to new emp, the same thing is going to happen here. First as a class slot is for the class pointer, second is for our employee ID, and the third one is for our name, and the fourth one is for the salary. And this class pointer is again point to this method area, and the same way our method is going to invoke. If you want to learn the programming, then you can join our online programming classes. We teach Java, Python, HTML and CSS, Spring Boot, Hibernate, SQL and web development. And if you want project consultation, then you can call us on this number. We will help you to build the projects.